Thank you, Mr. Chair, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. And General Semoninte, always good to see you. And I'm sure you know the topic that I'm going to bring up this morning, the Cedar Rapids Flood Mitigation Project. And Mr. Fisher, you and the General have both made references to value back to the nation when it comes to the benefit-cost ratio. But when you talk about value back to the nation, I think when you're referring to the BCR, you often are then, or what that brings to mind is the fact that those places with higher property values are worth much more to our nation than the rural areas where property values are lower. And since 2008, Cedar Rapids has experienced two major floods that have cost the city billions of dollars in damages and lost economic activity. Despite being authorized in WRDA 2014 and mentioned for prioritization in 2016, the project has not received any federal funding due to the low benefit cost ratio that results from the city's relatively low property values. The Cedar Rapids Flood Project is $600 million in total. The federal cost share of that is only $73 million. So the city is bearing the brunt of that project, while the federal government would have $73 million to contribute. Now, going back to the BCR, the metric as currently calculated is very problematic. The lives and livelihoods of the people in Cedar Rapids are just as important as those of individuals who reside in those coastal areas with higher property values. A solution is needed to ensure that all areas of the country have a fair shot when competing for these important core projects. So General Semoninte, we have talked about this before. I'm going to refer back to the December confirmation hearing of R.D. James, the President's nominee to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. He committed to working with me and OMB to modify the BCR metrics in a timely manner, and I'm going to quote his words, quote, "It's not right that there's people in this country who will never, ever get any type of water infrastructure project under the current BCR analysis." Do you agree with Mr. James's assertion, and do you also agree that the metrics need to be changed?
I personally do agree that the metrics need to be changed. We can't do one size fits all or one metric fits all. And your specific area is one where, we say the local people out there saved lives because they were very, very aggressive in getting that flood fighting done. And we were lucky to a degree that somebody didn't get hurt out there. But I think we've got to go back in and take a look at this. I am not convinced, though, that under the current metric, we're going to see the light of day on this one. So this is where we've got to do something different, either change the metric or go back in and somehow reformulate the project to be able to figure out how can we get the cost down and maybe bring the risk down. I've had a meeting with my guys yesterday to say we've got to be able to figure out how to solve this somehow, and just plugging through and beating our head against the wall on this one is not going to make progress. So we've either got to change the metric or go back in and actually say, is there some way that we can redesign it to come into a benefit-cost ratio that is in line with current OMB metrics?
I appreciate that, and I will hold you to that, because we do have to make progress on this. We have been through a number of flood events there, and we'll probably have another flood event before we get this solved. In fiscal year 2017, 5 projects received funding under the human safety exception, 5 human safety exception, which gives the Corps discretion to fund projects with low BCRs if it deems there is a significant risk to human safety. 4 of the 5 projects were in California, 4 of 5. And in a December 2016 letter to me, the Corps indicated that the decisions are determined on a case-by-case basis. Can you shed some light on this process? Because as we've discussed in this committee before, there does seem to be a black hole of decision making. Can you talk to me about the process and how those decisions are arrived?
So, ma'am, I'm not exactly an expert on this, but I did talk to Mr. Fisher yesterday. I think we both got to take a look at this process and go back and especially on that particular project, is there the ability to be able to apply this human exemption back on that particular project and revisit that decision, if nothing else, based on some of the other ones we've learned, and based on the fact that I don't necessarily see this thing happen in the normal way. So unless we are innovative of thinking, what other tool in our kit bag can we use to get it authorized, then I don't see it happening. So this is where I think we both have to take a hard look at it. And as you and I have talked several times this, I'd love to come back and say, here's the realm of what, if anything, the committee needs to do to have this one see the light of day.
We will have you back, sir. You're welcome in my office anytime, and I look forward to having those discussions.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you very much.